now that we learned our proper body alignment, our proper posture, and our proper weight distribution, the next thing to learn is going to be taking our first step in the forwards direction. So the first part in taking our first step is understanding and knowing that everything we do in marching band, whether it's marching forward, backwards, is always going to be our left. Start with our left. Everything is left, left, left. Always think left foot. When in doubt, go with your left. The only time you should ever use your right is if a band director specifically tells you you're going to step off with your right foot here, or your visual starts with your right side. So when in doubt, always go with your left. So that being said, we're going to start in our posture, in our proper posture position that we just learned, with our feet in a V. Now, just step forward with your left foot. It doesn't matter how the distance, we're just trying to learn the proper posture for now. We'll get into distance later. Now, just simply take a step forward. Now, the thing to note when you're marching forward, you never want to march with your feet in a V. So, to do so, when we take our first step, we're going to rotate our left foot from this V position to point straight in front of us. So practice with your feet starting in a V and taking your step forward, and your left foot's going to point in front of you, and your right foot is going to stay pointing outward. Once you're in this position with your left foot forward and your right foot outward, simply flex your left foot and point your toes as high as you can to the sky. So you're going to take your step forward and flex your foot. Your toes should point as high as you possibly can. This is important because this keeps our heels low to the ground. The lower your heels are to the ground, the straighter the legs are going to be, the better posture you're going to have, and the less feet in your sound you're going to get. So left foot out, point straight in front of you, right foot to the side, and flex your toes. Now we're going to talk about our weight distribution. So our weight should be evenly distributed between both legs. You never want to have your weight in your back foot when you're marching, but you also never want to have it straight in front of you as well. So that being said, your weight should be distributed between your left heel and your right platform. We talked about the platforms earlier being the balls of your feet and your toes. So take your step forward, right at an angle, flex your foot. Now put all your weight in your left foot, all the weight on the right foot, and find that even middle ground to where your weight is evenly between your left heel and your right platform. And make sure you're keeping that left foot flexed. And this is going to be the final position when you're taking your first step. You might be wondering, okay, how do I push off? How do I get to this first step? You never want to start your step leading with your knee. First off, we're trying to keep a straight leg technique, and leading with your knee causes knee bend. You never want to push by leaning your body weight back. Remember, we're trying to keep this proper body alignment. You also never want to push with your body weight forward. You want this even movement of your body moving through time. That being said, we already have our weight evenly distributed with 60% of our weight on our platforms. So we already have this potential energy ready, built up, ready to go somewhere. And we're attentive, and we're ready just to push forward and start. So we're going to use this energy in our right platform, which is already on the ground and already has our even weight, to push forward. So just practice by lifting your left foot and just pushing forward using that platform. It doesn't need to be a perfect push, just simply practice and get the idea and the feeling of using that platform to push forward. Now, we're going to push forward and keep this leg straight. Remember, we're trying to keep our heels low to the ground. So we're going to push forward with our right platform, and we're going to stop here. The important thing to note is you need to keep your body evenly between both legs. And this is going to give you that proper body alignment. Also, make sure you're pulling up. That'll give you more stability and more control over when you're marching. So simply use this right platform and push. And flex and use that core and use your body to go ahead and stop yourself. And just stop in that first position. So the things to remember, keep your heels low to the ground. Keep your left toe, or whichever foot's in front of you, keep those toes flexed as high as you can to the sky. And make sure that weight's evenly distributed between the left heel and the right platform, because that's going to be how you get that even weight distribution. Now we're going to go into the second step. So we're already in here with our left foot in front, pointed straight and flexed, and our right platform's on the ground. We're going to use the momentum gained after taking our first step to push into the second step. But just like we did in the first step when we rotated our left foot to point straight, we're now going to rotate our right foot to point straight. So our feet should be parallel. So if you stick your feet together and you start swinging your leg around straight in front of you, flex your feet. This is the idea and the feeling you should get by using your hip flexors and using these muscles to push your leg out in front of you and keep your leg straight. If you're having a hard time balance, go ahead and grab a wall and just practice this motion. This is gonna be the feeling you should get where your knees are not locked. Your leg is relaxed, but at the same time you have as straight of a leg as possible. And like we said earlier, to get to this point, you're gonna want to have your heels as low to the ground as possible, because the higher you lift your heel, the more knee bend you're gonna have. It's hard to do this, but at the same time, keep your heel high up in the air. It's not really possible. So we're gonna start in this position where we ended after our first step. Our weight's evenly distributed, toe is flexed, left foot, right foot. Next, take your step forward with your right foot and just stick it in front of you. Again, we're not really worried about distance. Right now, we're just trying to figure out the posture. So stick your right foot in front of you and make sure that your feet are pointed in the same direction. So it started at an angle and straight, step forward, and they're both pointing straight. So that means if you brought your right foot back, they should end perfectly together, pointing straight. So again, step forward, rotate that foot. And now the thing to think about whenever you're taking this step forward in your left foot is you're gonna roll through the step. Now this doesn't mean you're gonna roll and you're gonna bring your heel up as high as possible. You're gonna roll, and at the same time, you're gonna transfer that weight from the right platform in the left heel into the left platform in the right heel. Your legs should never come up and your weight should not be on your left toes. Remember we talked about the platform being the balls of your feet and your toes. So once you roll and you feel that weight hit your platform and your toes, that's pretty much where your weight should stop. And that should give you this even weight distribution between the first and the second step, while keeping your legs as straight as you possibly can. So the power generated from the first step is going to be where you get your momentum to take your second step. So it's 1, step 2. You should never have to push from your right foot and then your left foot off your platforms. This is gonna create that heel raise and you're gonna get a bigger knee bend. Use your momentum to keep pushing forward, and if you need to, push a little more on your left foot, but that momentum gain, if you keep the power moving, you should have your legs straight and you should be able to keep going. So like we talked about in the first one, a recap on the second step is make sure you rotate that right foot to become parallel with your left foot. Make sure, again, your right toes are pointing high, like we said earlier. Whichever foot's in front, your toes are high. Your left foot has the platforms touching the ground, and your weight is evenly distributed between your right heel and your left platforms. Your body is aligned right directly over both feet in the middle, and you're pulling up big and tall so you can have nice control of your body. So again, step 1, rotate the left foot to point directly in front of you. And step 2, roll through that left foot, weight touches your platforms, your right heel is on the ground, and they're both pointing forward, ready to go. And that's how you take your first and second step. Now that we learned how to march forward with our first and second step, the next step to learn in marching forward is how to close or how to stop. So basically we're gonna start how we end. What I mean by that is we start before we start marching forward in this big posture like we had learned earlier, and we're gonna end in this big posture, starting with our feet in a V, ending with our feet in a V. So while we're marching forward, our feet are gonna be parallel, and so we need to get them into a V. To do so, start by taking your right foot and just placing it out in front of you. I know we said we start with our left, but if we're gonna stop after 8 counts of marching, on count 8 is gonna be your right foot. So on count 8, we would what's called place, close on the next 1. So if it was blocks of 8 counts, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we would place on count 8 of the first set, and we would close on count 1. So if I was marching, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, place, and close. So how to place? Your feet, you're gonna start with your feet in parallel, your feet together. So stick your right foot out, and then point your toe and shoot your energy into the ground and flex your foot as hard as you can. Just point your toe and just shoot your energy straight into the ground. This is what's called a tendu. And so the next step to form a proper tendu is to then point your toe outward. Just like when we started, our feet are in this V. Now, use that V and drag your foot outward and point. Your foot should always be pointed outside, or it should be pointed at an angle, showing the arch of your foot whenever you're doing a tendu. So, to close, we're gonna do our tendu and stick our foot out. The next thing to do is going to be to rotate this left foot from our right pointing outward, our left straight. We're gonna rotate our left foot to point outward as well and come together. So again, count 8 would be to point, our toe pointed outward, and our left foot straight. And then to close, our left foot is going from straight, and then it's gonna point outward to end in this V with our fist between, just like we talked about earlier. So point, and then come together. But just like earlier, we never want to point and then snap our energy, snap our body together. You do not want point and snap. Just like when we talked about this fluid motion of marching, we're gonna take count 7, place, and close. We wanna keep our heels low to the ground because we never wanna place up top. If we place with our heels super high to the ground, the only place left to go is down, and that's gonna create a bounce. Your horn is gonna bounce, you're gonna get feet in your sound, and your plume's gonna jiggle around, and it'll be really noticeable by the judge. So to have proper technique, again, it's 7, place with your tendu pointed outward, and then close. And your weight should be distributed, 60% of your weight on your platforms, 40% of your weight on your heels, your body perfectly aligned, your shoulders back, your chin up, just like we talked about earlier with your proper posture. So again, your feet are starting in parallel. Left would be count 7. Count 8 is gonna be a place with your foot pointed outward, and then closing by just bringing your left foot to come meet your right. Again, place, and then close. Try not to drag your feet along the ground because your foot could get stuck, could cause other issues. You could start to slow down, and it'll eventually make you more tired due to the friction and the more energy you're having to use. So just like we talked about earlier, with this leg swinging motion, your foot is just gonna be grazing the ground. So that place and your foot should just come together. And make sure you're pulling up so that when you place, you're not getting this motion. Pull up and engage your core so you have more stability, and you can simply just come to a stop. So again, 7, place, and stop. And you need to pull up and engage your core muscles so that you can have proper stability and you can look super fierce and sharp whenever the entire band stops in a straight line.